Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel, and welcome back to the most neglected car I own that is my fault. I had to say that. In today's video, we're going to start a new adventure. And the reason I say it's a new adventure is because we got to pull the engine and the transmission out of this car to do repairs on both of them. That part's not my fault. It's just that's me doing things overboard just to feel better about neglecting this car. It looks horrible. I'm already dusty from top to bottom just standing next to it. Maybe we should have washed it before that. Anyways, here's the plan though. LS430, if you want to pull the engine out, you can just pull it from underneath the hood. Same transmission, just pull it out underneath, or you pull both of them actually through here. But that's what everybody else would do. We're going to do it Car Care Nut style. Go overboard. That's what we do best here. So I'm going to try something. And you know what? When we built 600,000 mile Lexus LS430, I'll leave that series right here if you haven't seen it. I told you at the end of the series that it was a big learning experiment for me, just going beyond the norm, going all overboard, because I really love these cars. They are one of the best Lexuses ever made, and I wanted to learn everything about it, hands-on, inside and out. Now, this one, we're going to continue on to that experiment. I would like to pull the engine and the transmission and the subframe from the bottom. Because actually, that's not really been done. Maybe it's been done somewhere, but not recorded. Today, we're going to do that. And wish us luck. We're going to do things a little bit different than the previous series. We're going to put you on a time lapse. We'll talk about these cars. We'll just have a little conversation. I'll share with you what we are doing and whatnot. But I think that'll speed things up and give you guys all the details and not make the video super long and drag out too long. So without further ado, let me dust up again. Dust off, actually, and then we'll get the dust right back on. Let's get to work. Let's start pulling this whole assembly out. So we start by removing the top cowl piece, some fender covers, and we remove the intake. This is how basically every single LS430 job starts. Just remove the intake, remove the air filter housing. Air filter was clean on this one. Bolt was not missing in the back. This is a common thing. And then I got lazy here. Let's just drain the coolant without lifting the car up. This is where actually the engine computer is. This is where the harness that goes from the engine connects to the engine computer and connects to the body harness. It's actually, this is an old school design that Lexus used to use. Now everything is kind of moving to the outside. They have a big cover on it that protects it from the element because all the connectors inside are not weatherproof. And here's that evap hose. Yeah, that's a common thing with LS430s. They love to get really brittle. So here we're basically working towards disconnecting everything that goes from the engine to the body. So vacuum hoses, grounds, all the idle up hoses, and then we move into the power steering. This is where I made a little mistake. I should have just drained the reservoir. You'll see it later. I removed the pump, then I realized, wait, I can bring the pump down because I'm bringing the rack and the lines. This is where I'll be honest with you. Starting this job, because I've never done it this way. I pulled an engine out of an LS430, but not this way. It was a little bit of a back and forth on a few things. You know, I wanted to remove the radiator, but then I realized, well, do we even have to? We actually didn't. That's the best part, but well, I think we are replacing the radiator anyway, so off it goes. It's very simple, just power steering lines at the bottom. Then I disconnected the other harness. So there's a wire that goes from that passenger side fuse block that goes all the way to the starter. That we disconnected. That's the only thing really that's connected to the engine itself. Of course, the starter is right underneath the intake manifold. So yeah, let's just disconnect the wire and bring it down with. My biggest concern with this car, we'll talk about it a little bit later, is the wire harness. It's not in the greatest shape in the planet. And then the coolant hoses, these are for the heater and the heater valve. I decided to leave that in the car, just it wouldn't affect anything. We're replacing all that, all the hoses and the heater valve and all that, because they are very brittle. This is a Florida car that yeah, the heat has gotten to it, let's put it this way. Then we pull down the refrigerant off the AC so we can disconnect the lines, because the lines are connected to the condenser and whatnot. The compressor is just going to come down with. Here's that radiator coming out. Just covered this so we wouldn't have any debris fall in the engine computer and that kind of delicate compartment. Looking around, making sure everything is disconnected. we get that radiator out. We already got the refrigerant out. Here comes the radiator out. We are replacing this radiator, so I figured, well, let's pull it out. Why not? And we start in the front. This is where I kind of, I'll be honest, I lost track of things. Well, normally when I do this, just pulling the engine, just disconnect the power steering pump, leave it in the car and pull the whole thing up. And then as soon as I disconnected it and I'm looking at the lines, I realized, wait a second, I'm removing the rack and pinion and the high pressure hose. I don't really need to do this. So let's just put this pump back, pretend like we didn't do that. And this is when I realized, and I actually remembered, in the video when we were making it, I did not remember. This was one of the things that the customer asked at the time when we had this car before we bought it and whatnot. They wanted us to replace the reservoir. And at the time, I remember the hoses, they were stiff, but they worked. But actually, one of the hoses, when I took it out, it's completely ripped off the pump. So I guess we are replacing that and the line and everything else. We'll talk about it. But yeah, here's, let's just pretend we didn't see that. We put the pump back. So I realized, let's just put the pump down and disconnect the lines. I think that is a better way to do this, because it's throwing me off. Because I've pulled the engine before like that, but not the way we are pulling it here, because we're experimenting with this one. So the AC lines are coming off the compressor. These are the ones that are connected to the condenser. So it's best to leave them in the car. One of them connects to the condenser, the other one goes to inside the car. So these are all staying outside. At this point, we're pretty much done upstairs, if you would. We start with the exhaust. So ideally, we'd like to disconnect half the exhaust, but here's something about LS430s, in case you own one. Exhaust is a problem with the LS430, especially the rusty ones. That middle section, the Y pipe with the 1 catalytic converter, Lexus decided to discontinue it. So yeah, and here, of course, while we're working on a rust-free car, of course, one of the exhaust bolts just completely rounded off. And yeah, that was a little bit of a fight to get it, but we got it. We'll replace them with new bolts. So ideally, the exhaust separates in the middle and we can just pull the front piece, because I don't really need to remove the whole thing. We could just, disconnect it right there, for example, and separate it, and we're great. Well, that in LS430s never happens. I just figured maybe this is a rust-free car. Maybe this will separate very easily. But as you'll come to find out, that is never the case. And I knew that, but I just wanted to give it a shot. Yeah, you give it a few taps and you hope it separates. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So moving to a couple different hammers. One of them moved a little bit, but then it just wouldn't budge anymore. So let's not damage anything. Let's just do this the normal way, which is, let's just remove the entire exhaust. And the thing about the LS430, there's a few hangers here and there. There's a big brace in the middle. And then in the back, the hangers by the muffler is near impossible to remove. They're really a big fight to remove them. So the easier way to do this is, I just pulled the entire bracket that holds the hangers. They're actually not a welded bracket to the body. It's bolted on with a few bolts in the back. So that's the easiest way to pull the exhaust. It's a little bit cumbersome, takes up a lot of space because you're pulling the whole exhaust. But we're used to this in rusty land, because you get cars with rusty exhaust. You're not going to start separating things. You're just going to pull the whole thing in one unit, put it back in one unit. That's the best way actually for exhaust. So here's our exhaust coming down. We just chase after a few last hangers that I forgot, and yeah, that happens, but here it is coming down. We're all good with that one. Then we're going to remove a couple heat shields. That's another heat shield. We are trying to remove the drive shaft. I mean, you could disconnect it from the transmission and just kind of pull, but at this point, I'd rather remove it. Here's that shifter, the shift rod that connects to the shifter inside the car. We're going to remove the drive shaft. Drive shaft on the LS430 does have a center support bearing, and it's like a flex disc. It doesn't have like a rubber flex disc. It doesn't have a U-joint or CV joint or whatnot. It just has flex discs. They rarely go out. I mean, you go in German cars, they're constantly breaking and splitting. Not really on the LS430. They're very rare to do that, because I mean, it's not a super powerful engine. But here's our drive shaft coming out. You got to disconnect the center support bearing for it to come out. Now we start with the suspension, and this is when yours truly forgot that how does this come out? Well, just pull on it, pull on it, pull on it. Yes, We got it. Second one, this is just to open up. There was a lot of figuring out to do here, because what are we? This is throwing me off. Like, we've never done this like that. So I decided to disconnect parts of the suspension. I decided to keep the knuckle up, and then just disconnect the ball joint at the bottom, get the tie rods off, because the tie rods are coming down. Sway bar, it's best to completely remove it. So it's out of the way. And that's what we're doing here. This is Amir, our parts manager. He volunteered to stay and help a little bit because he's really interested in this car. Maybe if I ever sell it, he might be interested to buy it. He loves the LS430s. Now we're getting some of the last little details. Of course, the exhaust, steering shaft, giving us all kinds of trouble, but we got it. We got it. So last little details, some ground straps here and there. Now we're starting with the last few odds and ends, things like the struts, bolts that connects to the lower control arm, because the lower control arm, I'm going to pull it down with the subframe. That's the easiest way, because it's not really in the way. So we got that bolt out, and we're pretty much arriving at the most nerve-wracking moment, because so we're immediately going to cut to the final method that worked, but we have tried so many things to get this entire assembly down, and nothing fits. Like, you can fit something on like a GS350 all-wheel drive, which is designed to come out that way, but the LS430, I don't think it is actually designed to come out this way, because the subframe is so narrow and it's two levels. So if I remember correctly, the front is higher than the back. It's a little bit interesting to get it to sit on a flat table. So here goes the nerve-wracking moment. This is where so Amir was there, parts manager, and of course Jose filming. I told him, just stand back. I don't know how this is gonna go. Are we gonna damage the car? Are we gonna just stand back? This is not a fun moment, because we are totally experimenting here. So what I ended up this is when I realized, okay, I don't have a flat surface, so I need to support certain parts and the other parts sit on the table. For example, the front part of the subframe is the lowest point, so when you lower it, that's gonna hit, but the back is still hanging up. So I decided to put pieces of wood to kind of make up for that unevenness of the subframe and the transmission mount, so we can kind of let it sit on the table, because that's when you remove a component for a car, you want it to be supported, then you take the subframe bolts, then things are good. So this is where we arrived at that point. But putting a heavy powertrain on a few pieces of wood is, yeah, it's a nerve-wracking moment, because if they split, move, shift, it's a problem. And this is where, on top of that, when you separate powertrain from a car, you gotta make sure you don't forget any ground. So go slow, just go a little bit at a time, and eventually things will go. So I'll leave you to see the whole operation, and we'll talk about it some more. The powertrain of the LS430. Before we tour this and we look at everything, suggestion for those who, I probably should not put my hand here. Two things. Don't pull this powertrain this way. It is a terrible idea. I'm just gotta flat out say it. I think we would have been done with this long time ago if we didn't do this. This was very, hey, there's no price in education. That's all I'll tell you. This was a terrible idea. We tried every single way to get this down without having complications. It just didn't happen. So this is the only way we found it. And the second thing I'd like to say, if you work at some Eastwood company, do the job right part. Yeah, they did that part good. This table is rated at up to 1,000 pounds. Every time a company tells you up to 1,000 pounds, they usually mean it's 800, but you can occasionally push it. I'm very impressed. Not only because this table have seen all kinds of beating at the shop here. I mean, we have put this through the test. But now, this engine weighs 225 kilograms. my math is gone, it's too late, and this was nerve-wracking. Over 500 pounds, basically. Transmission is about actually almost 300 pounds. So right there is 800 pounds. And the subframe, another 100 pounds, give or take. Rack and pinion, everything else. Yeah, we are seriously pushing the envelope of this table, but it works. Here's the interesting part, though. This is the, for lack of a better word, I try not to use words like that on the channel. This is very sketchy. I just put it this way. I just noticed this as I rolled the engine out and looked at it. What exactly happened here? I have that question from my technicians in the shop because I haven't used this table in a while. But yeah, that's supposed to support things. That's not supporting anything. Pretty good table, gotta say that. Moving on from the table, let's do a tour of this. By the way, I am not going to assemble this car this way because this was a terrible idea. Just gotta say. Let's do a tour. 3UZ, ladies and gents. Let's do the 3UZ Symphony. That have seen better days. So the debate is continuing with this car. The harness. This harness have seen better days. So I am actually debating, do we get a wire harness while we're this far? I mean, it's so easy to replace it right now instead of replacing 2 million connectors. So I'm gonna debate on that over this weekend. Today is Thursday, we're filming this. But let's give you a tour. You've probably seen this part, pretty simple. Biggest problem with the UZ engine, the upper oil pan is overlapped by the subframe. If you come look here, here's the subframe. You can't really easily pull it, and there's nothing else to hang the engine up. So, yeah. And then just, this is probably the most well-engineered engine, period. One of the top engines, in my opinion. Pretty sure there are others that are similar, but not many engines I can think of that are better. Even this engine, the engineers managed to do something that is just unbelievable. Watch this. Oxygen sensor, or AF, air fuel ratio sensor. Actually, this is an 05. The wire goes behind the engine mount, comes out all the way here, and then connects there. My question to them is, why couldn't the sensor be a little bit more at an angle here so you can access it through the wall? Maybe a short wire that connects right here. No answer. Because even here, it's not exactly simple to pull it out. Well, now let's look at the worst side. This one. Very easy right now. I mean, it's right there. Connects right here. If you look around, connects right there. How simple can that be, right? Well, here's the problem. There is the matter of the rest of the car in the way. Getting this is a nightmare. You get this metal cover here. It is not fun. And then this wire is basically, that's what you have to deal with. They love to break right here and cause all kinds of issues. That's why I am having second thoughts on this harness. I mean, yeah, I mean, look at this. Just fully disintegrating. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm having a hard debate on this harness. And by the way, the starter, we're also going to replace it. Hey, I can see the starter finally, right here. It's you see it from the edge here. That's your starter right there underneath. Some folks really dislike this. I actually love it because these starters last a very long time because they're not exposed to elements. There's no dirt and grime and stuff just hammering on them all day long as you drive. They're safe and sound in the safest place in the engine. Yes, the heat gets to them, but if they put them here, that's even worse. Right next to the exhaust manifold, just like the 5.7. That's what the 5.7 is. Transmission, it's actually a pretty small transmission with a very broken mount. Here's the best part. These engine mounts, they're actually brand new. We installed these on this car, but this mount was on back order at the time, and the owner said, well, maybe I'll do it myself. I'll have a local shop do it. This is very simple. This is a complicated one. So yeah. Then there's the small stuff. This is the stuff I don't understand. Valve cover. valve cover was leaking. I could actually, you can see the remnants of it leaking right on the exhaust. Right here. That's old oil. That's, yeah. And then this is not a leaking rack. This was actually the valve cover that was just pouring down on it. You can see like the shadows here of somebody wiping this down. They did valve covers on this, and that's fine. I don't see a problem. Except, you see this blue horrendous aftermarket sealer? Look at the half moons. No blue sealer, because they didn't do the half moons. That just tells me whoever got into this. Yeah. Anyways, another thing I want to do in this transmission, actually, and I see a lot of this may be from the, because there's no seal here. This may be actually from the torque converter seal, which we're going to look at that. I'm going to replace this shift shaft seals. They also love to leak on this. And then there's one on the other side. Well, we have it here. We might as well pull the neutral safety switch, because you see all this wetness. That's actually from the, potentially from the shift shaft seal, although I see it wet here, so it might be just traveling down. We'll clean all that up. The main thing I want to do with this engine is pull the heads, do the valve guide seals, give it a good clean, put new head gaskets. Just, why not? We're here. Let's do it. Let's do it properly. Check the valve clearance. Doubtful at this mileage, but we'll still check them. We'll do cam seals. We'll do the whole 9 yards. Everything. The car, this is how, if you own an LS430, this is how that looks like with nothing in it. I'm thinking we're gonna push this to the side, probably plug this, plug that, give it a little wash, get this nice and clean. And this hose broke. The reservoir is actually new. It looks very new or newerish, but we'll give it a wash. I've already got a new radiator, new every single hose, because look at these hoses. Isn't this the perfect opportunity to replace these? They're not terrible, but they're a little soft. Yeah, this one is definitely soft. So we'll replace all these, and just look at this one. This one is my favorite one. Yeah, that was not sealing anything. Look at that big crack. Yeah, that was not sealing anything. So, again, let me say this one more time, in case you didn't catch it. Do not pull the powertrain this way. That's a bad idea. We're actually not going to put it back in the car. I just wanted to experiment. And what we experimented with, we tried everything under I feel like under the sun, to figure out what's the best way. This was not my first choice. We tried our 2GR table there. That didn't fit. We tried multiple affiliation. That didn't fit. And I was nervous about that because we're actually pulling a 2GR out tomorrow. So we need that. I would have had to rush this. Then we tried these. These are from Harbor Freight. I just wanted to try them. They are pinch weld stands. And the idea here is you loosen this. You open it. You put your pinch weld of the car here, then you tighten this to clamp it, and now you can roll your car without suspension. So, helpful if you like taking the car suspension, but I need the lift. We can actually move the car now. We bought these, but tried those to support the subframe. That didn't work either. This is a bad idea. So the table was the last option. I really dislike this, but you know what? I'm extremely impressed. We're not going to push our luck. I'm at least going to just hoist the whole thing and set it down on the floor overnight, just so we're not, or we might just do it now. Yeah, this is nerve-wracking, because this table, I don't think can hold this overnight. I would not sleep my night. Folks, I think we're going to count our stars and call it a day. In the next episode, we're going to separate the transmission from the engine. I want to look at the transmission, see what exactly caused the leak, and then we're going to actually dive into the engine. I want to tear it down, get everything taken care of, start full tear down top to bottom. I think we're going to get the wire harness. I'm going to see when we tear it down how that looks, but I'm leaning towards let's do this right and put a proper harness, because I see stuff broken here and missing, and yeah, this is not pretty. I also got this hose. I'm going to replace every single hose here while we got it this far. Only hose I'm worried about is this one, which this one is part of the whole assembly. But again, while we are here, And this is probably not a bad idea to actually put, oh yes, this is not good. I think I'm going to put a power steering line just to be done. I don't want to keep going back and forth. It's the easiest way to do a power steering line right now. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new, and I feel like the only thing you learned is what not to do to an LS430, but I hope you learned something new. Folks, until the next episode, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day. Something catastrophic happened here. The first problem. Second problem. This is everything. That's it. That's a whole engine.